We do our regular. Thank you, sir. Thank you. There was only you doing it really well. Let me check on this side as well. So can we have a round of applause? Come on, bring it up. I know it's tough. The lunch was very good. This sir is sleeping and clapping at the same time, sir. You should get an award for that one. This side, can we have some energy? Come on, build it up. Brilliant. I want to say really, I think the sessions have been amazing. And I know that we have been clapping for our moderators and our speakers, but I want to give you a round of applause as well for being such an amazing crowd. Each and every speaker has such nice things to say about you. So give yourselves a round of applause for being such a great audience. Thank you very much.
Hello.
All right, let's begin our round two of day two of CREDAI NatCon. Ladies and gentlemen, in the last couple of years, there's been a huge interest in newer asset classes of real estate, namely data center and warehousing. They are being termed as the sunrise sectors of real estate. And let's decode them in our next session. The knowledge partners for this session are Anurag. And with that, I would like to invite our panelists on sunrise sectors of real estate, data center and warehousing. Our speakers, can we please have you on stage? First, we have Mr. Kalyan Mupaneni, founder and CEO of PI Data Centers. Give him a round of applause, please. Mr. Saravana Muthu, Supan, Iron Mountain. Welcome, sir. Mr. Bineet Saraf, Executive Director, Indospace. Mr. Manoj Gaur, Vice President, CREDAI. Mr. Rahul Pandit, Horizon Industrial Parks Private Limited. Mr. Ajay James, Agility. Mr. Sharad Gohil, Indospace. And our final speaker, Mr. Narendra Kumar, VP, CREDAI. Please give our speakers a round of applause.
I might be the middle seat. Am I?
All right, and now to moderate this part of the session, can we please have Mr. Shobit Agarwal, MD and CEO of Anurag Capital. Let's give a huge round of applause to Mr. Shobit Agarwal.
Thank you, everybody. After yesterday's session, this seems like a team that was waiting to play its chance after the rains. So we finally got the chance. It is a big panel that we have, and I think we've got a lot of talk on leadership. We had a brilliant session before this, inspirational, but now we're going to get back to some technical sessions. And I must thank, first of all my fellow panelists. They've traveled from Singapore, Dubai, Hyderabad, of course, the CREDAI team from Delhi and Patna. So they've been waiting for 3 hours now for this to talk to you. So I'm really glad that we are getting a chance and we want to hit the sixes that we can. We are here to win. Hopefully we'll win. Two other things, we worked very hard to provide you with some contents. So we've written a report on warehousing, which we'll be unveiling at the end of this session. But we'll talk about it before we hand it out to you. And in lines with sustainability and ESG, we have got no prints except for unveiling here. Everything else will be e-copies, which you can download. So we are saving and going green. I'm going to take about 2-3 minutes. I break the session into two. First, we'll cover data centers because it's a serious kind of subject. It involves lots of money. And then we'll move to warehousing, which is a far simpler subject to decode. I'm going to do quick background setting. I've made a few slides. Can you please roll the slides? I hope everybody can hear at the back. I'm not sure. The voice is a little echoing. Yeah? There's a lot of echo. Can you please check the mic? It's echoing. It's clear? Okay. So guys, we've discussed residential, commercial, retail, many conferences, but this subject kind of gets left out. So we'll try and explain to you what the demand drivers are. This is almost like a gold rush. There is so much money chasing this sector, and unlike many of my other sectors which are concentrated in tier 1 cities, I think this sector can take up, both these subjects can take up maybe 30 cities, 35 cities in the country. So it's not limited to a conversation on Delhi, Bombay, Bangalore, and other such cities. Can we please have the presentation, please? Well, I think after lunch, people have taking a little time to wake up. I have some jokes that I can talk while the presentation comes on. But nonetheless, okay. Just in the while presentation is coming on, can I please request my first panelist who's actually flown in from Singapore, Sarah from Iron Mountain. They have invested in India through WebWorks. They have 9 data centers operational in different parts of the city, and they are going, they're doubling down. May I request Sarah to just give a little bit of background of what they do so that you guys can understand what the company is all about. So over to you.
Yeah. I'm Sarah. Now my name is Supan Saravanamuthu. Actually, normally in Singapore, they call me as Sarah. I'm the Operation Director for Asia Pacific in Iron Mountain Data Centers. I think you all know now the data center business is as a smartphone user, everybody contributes us and giving a business to us. Because all the smartphones having you are storing the data, everything is in the cloud. The cloud provider normally come to us as a colo to give us more business to us. We have a joint venture in India with WebWorks, and we have 3 live data centers in Mumbai, Pune, and Noida. Other than that, in Mumbai 2 is coming up, Hyderabad 1 and Bangalore 1 also coming up. We are having a big plan in enhancing our data center business in India up to more than 100 megawatts.
Thank you. Can I move to Kalyan? Kalyan, if you can just introduce. Yeah, they've flown in from Hyderabad. They own 5 data centers. Over to you.
Thanks, Shobit. I'm Kalyan Mupaneni, founder and CEO of Pi Data Centers. So we are slightly different. While Sarah and Mountain, they're focused on tier 1 cities. Our strategy is to start from up, which is we're focused on tier 2 and tier 3 and getting into tier 1 cities. So as part of, expanding a little bit more on this, I think, and taking a step back a little bit, yesterday we had the leaders at CREDAI talked about, getting India becoming a $7 trillion economy, the 3rd largest economy. And I think data centers is the new fundamental block or the building block for digital India and going to be a major and a big part of the nation building. So I think in that context, I think for everybody in this room, it's very important that there is a lot of synergies between what all of you do with what data centers are in many ways. So data centers are recently included in as part of the infrastructure class, and then a lot more is being done in the country, including a new data protection bill. Once that kicks off, I think the demand is going to be tremendous in many ways, and the kind of capacity that the country needs is going to multiply in, and me, along with many of our industry colleagues, are working on this. But just to keep the introduction short on this topic, I think it's a very, very important and pertinent topic, especially, and I want to appreciate and thank CREDAI and Anurag for including this topic for the first time here.
Thank you.
Shobhit.
Our next expert on the subject is Beneath. He's part of a group called as Ever Yonder. Beneath, just a quick short introduction on yourself.
Yeah, good afternoon, everyone. I am Beneath Saraf, and I look after investments in the Ever Yonder platform. We are focused on large format or what you call hyperscaler data centers. This typically will be large formats, mid 30 to 60 megawatts per facility, focused on large cities, not so much on tier 2 currently, but hopefully the way data demand is exploding, plus given the kind of growth path I look for in this segment, I think we will be having presence at least in 8 to 10 cities, I would say, over time.
Beneath. And supporting us on this discussion, we have also got Manoj Bhai. Everybody knows him, doesn't need an introduction. But he's going to talk about Indian perspective and also put the questions on all your behalf, supporting me to the data center panel that we have. You would like to say something, Manoj Bhai?
I have a very less knowledge on this subject. For me, the warehouse is for the physical goods and data center is for the digital storage of data. But I want to know how developers can benefit it on this discussion, and can they do the data center as a real estate project? This is my question.
Absolutely.
On behalf of all the developers.
But I must tell you, I was thinking what's not or what's right or what's not right. It's the first time all my fellow panelists are on my right side. So I'm assuming this panel is going to do really well. I'll take 5 minutes or maybe 3. I'll try and finish it and wrap up in 3. Actually, we put data for you to understand what is going on and what are these my expert panelists talking about. So can we please roll the presentation? And you know, these are rich slides, but I'll make you focus on, and this is available with CREDAI, so they can send it to you separately. So don't worry about taking photographs. Can you next? Next, please. It's not rolling from here, so you guys will have to do it here. It's not rolling. You can roll from there, that's okay. You may. Yeah, start it. Thank you. So here it is, guys. Listen, we've just tried to tabulate. What's very important is if you focus on the blue icon, which says social media users, mobile subscribers, total mobile data traffic in 2021, and what's projected in 2027. In all counts, we are bigger than US. We have more subscribers, we are using more data, we have, everything is greater than US, okay? But for the size of population, which is the red on top, we are far behind China, which clearly tells you that we have to be somewhere, because we have so much subscription and so much usage, we have to be, if not, at least try to be parallel to China. So what we are telling you is in India, there are only 138 data centers, and they are measured not in square footage, but in megawatts. So we have only 700 megawatts of data centers today as we operate. This is the entire list. You talk about US, which has less than half our data usage, has 1800 centers and 3004 megawatts. You look at China, it has 400 data centers and 2100 megawatts operational. So guys, this is the gold rush, right? There is so much scope for data centers to come in. It doesn't require too much of science to understand. It is very, very obvious. And this is when we are still only on 4G. The 5G and the edge is still to roll out on telecom. Then we talk about data sovereignty. That means this one policy, which is applicable in China, it has California, US, Europe and Russia, all of them have enacted data sovereignty. That means whatever data is generated in India stays in India, right? Whether it's your mobile card, your mobile phone numbers, your cards, UPI, all that data has to be stored in India. They brought in this bill in 2021, in 2019, and they retracted it for some reason in 2021. It is likely to be reinstated in even more stricter form. And the discussions are ongoing. I think before the end of this financial year, this policy will be back. If this policy is back, we have to double down on the data storage. That means all your medical records, all your PAN, TAN, all those numbers, all government records have to be now saved everywhere in India. There's no option to take it abroad. Okay? I've already mentioned where we are, 138 data centers, 11 million square feet. What is declared pipeline is only 45 more data centers, and it still takes me only to 13 million square feet, right? Or 13 million square feet, right? We really need to catch up. So all of us here, guys, whoever can build data center at a suitable location, I think there's an opportunity for you to go beyond residential, beyond retail, beyond offices. And these are the 4 reasons, right? We are saying industry is a hockey stick type of curve in terms of growth. It has, there's something called as edge data centers, and I'm going to bring Kalyan to talk about it. They do a lot of edge data centers in Vijayawada and Cochin, right? So they'll tell you what it is. DC expansion can go to 2 and 3 and 4 cities. It is not limited to tier 1. And of course, we all need incentive and support, and we're going to send a list of some policy requirements to Manoj Bhai and CREDAI. And if you guys can help us, it'll be great. So over to you, Kalyan. Just talk about what is going on in simplistic terms, because these guys are trying to understand how to ramp up data centers, where will it go, what is the difference between edge and hyper, right? And maybe Beneath, you can also chip in, and what's going on in that space. So just a simple decode. We have about 5-10 minutes, and after that I'll just request after Kalyan, Sarah and Beneath, you can join in.
I think on the slides it was very well summed up where we are headed, Shobhit. I think so in that context, I think it's very important for India as a country, one, from a policy perspective, and second, how to be able to meet this demand in a more sensible way. If you have to draw parallels to a mature market like US, for example, of course, there are data center hubs like Virginia, et cetera, where you have, I think, 20 to 30% of demand concentrated in one place. But then the rest of the demand is spread across the country, all the way in Oregon down to the desert in Arizona and everywhere in between. So I think the similar strategy will have to be adopted in India as well. Yes, Mumbai today holds more than 50% of the line demand or the line share. Delhi is picking up, Chennai, Hyderabad are picking up. But then I think at some point, we need to look at it, right? For example, if you take Singapore has announced a moratorium because they don't want to break the infrastructure beyond a certain point. It have reached a peak. I think in a similar way, if we don't look at it today and make those decisions as a country to see how do we spread this demand across the country and make it more sustainable, use renewable energy in places that are like how things are utilized in Texas or Arizona in US, how do we do that in India? So that's where I think tier 2, tier 3, or even 4 cities come into a big play, I think, and edge comes into a big play. A lot of times people think about tier 2, tier 3 cities as just edge, but I beg to differ because I think you can put large capacities. Hyperscalers can go and do large installations, standalone installations, 10, 15, 20 megawatts in one location, even in a tier 2 or a tier 3 city with green energy like the way it might not be possible in a place like Mumbai or Delhi. So I think that's the reason why I think it needs to, there needs to be some policy regulation in terms of how we spread this out, how you use green energy, so that 5 years down the road or 10 years down the road, we don't find ourselves in the same place as Singapore. So I think that's the perspective that I would like to bring in, and I'd like to hand over to the fellow panelists.
Yeah, Sarah, one quick question before you add. Just give an indication of what would it cost to build 1 megawatt capacity in rupees crores. If you can give it, it'll be nice. Otherwise, $1 million and we can convert it.
Maybe I can give as a 10 megawatt because it depends upon the capacity when you site selection as well as the land, all those things. If you ask me if you want to run a 10 megawatt DC, you need at least 250 to 300 crores. I just share with one of the
So guys, that's roughly $4 to $5 million per megawatt. So
Yes.
if you want to build capacity of 20, if you want to build one capacity with 10 megawatts, you need 300 crores. So it's the opposite end of warehousing industrial, which can be built at far lower cost. And it's not so much about land. I think it's about the equipment that they go and put into data centers. MEP cost.
Yeah, the MEP cost will be a little bit quite very high. It's a very capital intensive because you need to buy the UPS, generators, then chillers, cooling systems, fire alarm system, fire protection system, building management system, physical security, compliance, blah, blah, blah. So many things are there. So definitely it's capital intensive, and it also depends upon the tier 3, tier 4. It's not like as cities like tier 1, tier 2, tier 3. There is an uptime rating which is called tier 3, which is 99.99%, and tier 4, which is 99.9999%. So all the things which will contribute your costing inside the data center. If you want to build a tier 3 with a 10 megawatt of DC in a tier 1 city, something like Mumbai or Chennai, Hyderabad, it will be around 250 crores to 300 crores.
Thank you. Vineet, some sense of what hyperscales are going to do, and what are the big hyperscale clients thinking, like Google, Amazon, the big fives as they call it. What's going on and what's their strategy in India?
It's a mixed strategy. They are doing own and operate like AWS. Then there are players like Google who would go to developer operators and take up space. I think it will be kind of a 50-50 split between them. They are very aggressive, especially the large 3 guys. We know AWS has taken big bets on India. They have acquired multiple sites in Hyderabad and Bombay. And so is the case with the other 2 large, I would say, hyperscalers. So in terms of hyperscaler capacity, I think it's going to be a big growth over next 5 to 7 years. And I also expect guys who are not there, given the data protection and data sovereignty which you touched upon, they will have to come to India. Meta has no choice if that were to happen, for example.
Quick question to all 3 of you. What is the one big challenge in expanding? All of you have money. All of you don't know the demand. You can get the consumer. What's holding you back? Why are you not going aggressive? What is the one challenge? Let's just limit it to one, and then I'll ask Manoj Bhai to ask a few questions.
I think it is 2, land and power, largely. I would say that.
I can say the power availability versus the fiber connectivity, because these 2 will play a major vital role. You need to upkeep a DC with a well and good. You have to maintain the 100% uptime, which in India we are getting now not much power quality. It's not continuous power supply. So we need a lot of things to think about, and also the connectivity because of the latency issues.
I think I agree with the same, but in addition to that, I think still a lot more demand is being held up outside the boundaries, and I think which will be pushed back into the country once the regulation comes in.
So regulation is critical, and it'll change the game completely. Manoj Bhai, you have some questions for my expert panels here.
From my last 27-year experience in this real estate, one thing is clear that you rightly correctly said. We have to think beyond residential and commercial. Now the real estate is changing, the next generation is there. For them, these type of data centers, warehousing, and other parts of real estate activity, we have to think on that. And one question comes out to be like warehousing, how this is calculated as a rental per square feet. If somebody wants to build a data center and give it to somebody, so can it be like a rental model?
You want to answer that,
Maybe
Sarah?
I can answer that. Normally, the data center won't go for rental. When the customer come in, the first question they will ask whether your building is your own data center or you are renting from some commercial building. If you tell that I'm renting from commercial building, the first RFI itself, you will be out from that RFI. Because the reason being, if you own the data center, the whole control will be under you. But if you go on rental with a commercial building, you have to depend upon the commercial and you have to depend upon your lease, how many years, all those things. So normally, all the, US customers or other customers, big customers, they will ask us to build our own data center.
Super.
Answer the question, yeah.
But I think the model that could be explored is build and transfer. I think
Build and
transfer
transfer,
the
yeah,
ownership.
okay.
Yeah.
Correct. So transfer the ownership. I think Ajay wants to come in. He's got a lot of experience in the Middle East. So yeah, please go ahead.
I think from a developer's perspective, when you look at data centers, there are different plays you can have, right? So at the first level, you can have a basic shell, which is like a warehouse, right? We've done some studies, and the construction cost is maybe 2 to 4 times the cost of a standard grade A warehouse. The next level is a powered shell, the warehouse with the level of power requirement that a data center has, right? And third one is taking it up to a full fit-out level, which is providing the white space. So that's where the costs, Sarah, you mentioned, comes into play, right? And finally, you can think of doing all that and then operating where it's under your full control.
Yes.
So multiple plays are there for the developer, right? So you don't necessarily, for a 10 megawatt, you don't necessarily need to spend this 250, 300 crores. If you do it just as a powered shell basis, it can be much lower. So it depends on who you are interacting with, who the data center you're going to either lease it to or have the engagement with.
I'm agree to that, but it depends upon the customer itself. If you go with the built and suit, the rental per kilowatt or the charges per kilowatt will be lesser when you go as your own data center. Example, just giving as an example, in India, maybe we are paying something as a 75 to 100 US dollar per kilowatt per month charges. But if you go as a built to suit, maybe they will charge you around $30 or $30 to $40 per kilowatt. So that is a major reason. It depends upon how much we are spending and how much we are getting, and depends upon the model as well as with the customers based on the hyperscale or either is a retailer, all those things. Yeah.
Guys, I just want to chip in. I'll tell you what's being discussed here is how critical is the operation. So if you're on Gmail, and I'm sure all of us use some sort of Gmail service, you want to go and retrieve your email from 2012, that data may be sitting in the field, Australia or Europe, and it's not critical. You will get it in 1 minute, half a minute, or 5 minutes it may take. But if you're driving your car on Google Maps, the data cannot stop. It will cause accident, it will take lives, right? So a lot of this data is being fed to live situations. Like yesterday, our friend said that you only play that ball once. Likewise, that data is as critical, guys, that it has to be there. It can't be sitting somewhere far away. It's live transmission, and that is what they're talking about, that if you need that level of service, they like to control their own things or give it in the hands of specialized developers like Ajay and Pi and Iron Mountain. So that is why it's so special. It is the nerve center of all these technology companies. You are going to ask any question?
What is the minimum area requirement?
Minimum area for 1 megawatt, which is small edge center?
Generally, yeah, I would say about a minimum, I would say one megawatt. to begin with, IT load. Land, I would say an acre. About
A white space, you can give 10,000 to 15,000 square feet should be enough. But you have to think about whatever the utilities, because utilities play a vital role in data center. You need to put up your transformers, you have to put up your plant rooms with UPS, air conditioning, fire alarm system, protection system, then some storage space area for the customers, all those things. But as a white space, you need 10,000, 15,000 square feet per megawatt.
Including M&E, I would say double that at least.
So about 1,000 square feet per megawatt
40, yeah.
to simplify with everything put in.
Yeah.
And that will mean about 1.5 to 2 acres of land. Generally, it's not put in multi-story, but you can go up to 4 floors.
Yeah, it depends upon the land situation also. In Singapore, so we are building as a level. My DC is around 6 levels. But in India, if you really have the land, we can go with the ground floor stack up.
Also,
We can do that. Loading the high density. Then it will cost.
About data saying what house supply, how it is. They're saying in terms of supply, 37, 38 million, it's going to grow to 50 million. Building more than we were building from 20 to 2022. Every year, balance between what and what. And guys, this offices will sort of end up at about 32 to 35 million. Warehouse is going to end at 45 million plus square feet. So clearly we are going up through the roof. That's the supply breakup. Rents are given there. Where are we building all this? Obviously, it all starts with consumption centers. So the biggest consumption center is Mumbai, Delhi, the south, which is Bangalore, Chennai, Hyderabad put together, and of course Calcutta. So you can see that that's the way the demand is following, but it doesn't mean that it will not go to tier 2. We have seen grade A warehouse come up in Jaipur, Lucknow, Patna, Indore. So across the city, guys, we do need more warehousing, and that's what's going to happen. Who takes up this? So there are 3 PL companies. There is e-commerce, there's manufacturing and automotive, and consumer electronics and pharma. That's the way the demand is split. We think that warehousing cost is going up. You know, people come back, your tenants come back saying not 22 rupees, 18 rupees, but you know that days of 18 rupees are gone. We are starting to move towards 23 to 28 bucks. But by the way, the per square foot cost on usage of that warehouse is actually coming down, right? So their cost used to be about 15%, is going to come down to 12%. So actually we can store much more efficiently and use that warehouse much more efficiently. And that's what my friends here are all building out. I'm going to leave you at this last slide. We think, and this is glazing, saying that in 5 years, we will need to build about 89 to 90 feet if we have to put everything. Let me first bring in Sharad, developer 2007, and have square feet, 30 million experience. Talk about
mentioning. In 4 to 5 years. And that you're was globally aggressive sector went through so you course of those 3 years, we had our best performing years since the business began 15 years ago. And the types of growth year on year that you're mentioning here is exactly what we're seeing play out across our portfolio. Indospace is right now currently across 10 markets in India. As you mentioned, we're just crossed 55 million square feet. And we expect that to double in the next 4 to 5 years. So that's the level of scale that we see. In fact, GLP, who's the largest minority shareholder of my business, Ming Mei, once said 4 years ago that, and really looking at their lessons from China 10, 15 years ago, if you feel that you're building 10 million square feet and you're building enough, you're building 20 million square feet less than what the demand is actually going to throw out. That doesn't mean I'm getting all rosy and excited about e-commerce. I think we've gone through that story. We know what e-commerce and 3PL, as you've mentioned earlier on, 60% contribution towards absorption across India. But the fact is, India's going through an evolution, and it's going through an infrastructure evolution. It's going through a consumption demand evolution, or explosion, I would say. And people have to store that product. And it's an under-penetrated market, whichever way we look at it today. You know, the fact that $6 to $7 billion of institutional capital has been in the sector for 4 years speaks volumes. Before that, my nearest competitor had 2 buildings up, and from a grade A perspective. And so now you've got a level playing field, but I think the demand is really strong.
I'm going to bring in Ajay at this point. We keep sort of talking and looking at ourselves and saying, guys, we are doing great. Can you just give us an insight of a listed company? In NACON, it's not just who's 8 years. Over to you, Ajay. What's your perspective, whether we are on the right track? I'm saying it is possible. And what's
the of warehousing in India, many of the more developed markets, it's still at a very nascent stage, right? So whether it's per capita square meter basis, whether it's the total size of the market, and so on. So, and even in terms of spread across the market, it's again very early stages. We've just touched the tier 2 cities, maybe gone beyond the tier 1, just started with the tier 2. So there's so much more in India. And with what's been happening recently, with all the infrastructure development, bringing in the hinterlands into the mainstream with e-commerce, giving people an avenue to actually spend their spending power, and across the board development, the tier 2 and 3 cities are just waiting to explode. again, comparing with China's or the US's of the world. So when we look at India, of course, we are a listed company in Kuwait, but we are own balance sheet funded. We don't have, we have very minimal debt, so we don't have a fund structure. So we look at money in terms of where do we get the highest return from, right? So we entered India over 10 years back, maybe when Indospace around at the same time. We had a big plan for India, 70 cities. We did 10 cities, and you all know the difficulties of land aggregation and so on. So after 10 cities, we sort of took a break and looked internally, and then we decided, okay, maybe for our limited resources, the Middle East, which is our backyard, where our core competencies are better suited, we should focus here. But having said that, whatever we did in India of the 9 properties, we have developed a few of them, and we are in the process of developing the rest, have all been fairly successful. And when you compare with, again, East and Africa also, where we have a great presence in, India is at a much more advanced stage in terms of the hockey stick Shobit was mentioning earlier, even though that was with regards to the data center business. The customer maturity, their understanding of a grade A product, the compliance requirements, the minimum scale of a unit warehouse, everything has gone up, is very comparable to developed markets vis-a-vis the rest of the emerging markets. So, in summary, no other country, we feel, gives the scale, the solid fundamentals, and the government support with all these infrastructure developments going on. No other country gives that when you look at on a overall emerging market space.
I'm definitely going to bring you in on all our conferences. You speak so well and so confident. I'm really happy to hear. Rahul, I would just want to ask you again. You started late, entered after doing lots of offices. So Horizon, if you guys don't know, is a 100% Blackstone company. So they've built they're the largest owners of offices around the country, and now they've started doing warehouses. And I'll just ask you, what's the thought behind it? How long term is it, and what is the exit that you guys are looking at? What's the scale and exit that you are looking at? And guys, I know Rahul a little bit longer than I know a few people on the stage. He's actually he was in the founding team of Lemon Tree, has worked in tier 2 cities, tier 3, hill stations, etc., etc. So over to you, Rahul. I'm only going to ask you to limit yourself about 4-5 minutes. I can see the time is over, but yeah.
Thank you. Thank you, Shobit. And I am delighted to be here with all of you from CREDAI. There are people from 80 cities in India, and when I look at this room, I think this room can really catapult India into what is waiting for India. Because if you read McKinsey, it says this is not India's decade, it is India's century. Because the debate in India today is the country going to grow 6.8 or 7% versus rest of the world to say, is it going to grow at all or no? Now, when you look at this sector, specifically industrial and warehousing, so if I was to see the Blackstone portfolio, in the Blackstone real estate, this is actually the largest asset class globally. So 37% of Blackstone's RE, which is 1.2 billion square feet, is effectively industrial parks. And since we've been speaking of US and China, and rightly so, because they are the dominant economic geographies today. Before we take a look at the sector, it's pertinent to say what are the lessons from their growth, because history is a great teacher. So how did US go to become a $22 trillion economy? How come China is a 16 trillion economy today? The reason lies in US starting 1968 to 1985. Those 17 years, the Reds and the Blues, the Democrats and the Republicans, focused on industrializing the United States, putting infrastructure in. So those 17 years effectively led to the establishment of railroads, offices, hotels, industrial parks, so on and so forth. And that's what really provided the platform for US to leapfrog. Similarly, China, starting 1992, has had a 27-year great run. So pre-1992, the difference between China and India was a couple of large degrees. And now the difference is actually a different orbit. So what's the opportunity for India? And how should we be looking at this? So if we look at the total tracked grade A and B supply in India, it is 307 million square feet. The total supply in the United States today, it is 13 billion square feet. So how is it that a country of 1.4 billion survives on this? The answer is we probably have unorganized supply of 10 billion square feet in the country, which is beyond the A and the B. It is C, D, E, F, G, H. And we also have open grain storage happening in trucks. So what does it do to the country? Globally, the cost of logistics to a country for efficient countries is about 8% to the GDP, otherwise 9%. In India, our cost today is 14% to GDP. What are our two big challenges today? The first big challenge is jobs. You know, while we have the demographic dividend on our side, if we don't have jobs, then it can become a demographic debacle. The second is growing our GDP. So when you look at programs like Atmanirbhar, the crux of the program is how do you accelerate manufacturing from 16% to 25% to be generating 100 million jobs. Along with that, instead of 14%, if our cost is 8%, that 6% cost today for a 3 trillion economy means $180 billion of saving. In the next 10 years, this is going to be a 7 trillion economy, which means a $420 billion of saving to be done. And our interestingly inflection point has been 2017, the introduction of GST. And courtesy the pandemic, today the global supply lines are getting rerouted. So what's the opportunity? And what sort of demand are we seeing, both on the industrial side and also on the consumer side, which feeds the warehousing sector? On the industrial side, I'll give you 3 quick anecdotes. So recently, we had a British specialty chemicals company which came in, and they had been looking at India, but they had been scared of doing land, constructions, and approvals. So today, we are making a factory for them in Hyderabad. So lots of industrial capex which is coming into the country is looking at plug-and-play factory solutions. So that's what we do. And when we do it at an aggregate level, it adds greater efficiency because you are putting the suppliers, the consumers, and the raw material all together. The second, we have a very large Indian auto components group which came to us and said, hey, would you do a factory for us, construct it? So we said, sure. And why so? Because they are looking at OPEX as an arbitrage to CAPEX. Because instead of putting in capital into land and creating factories, it's better to put it in your business to drive superior returns. And third is the emergence of new segments. So at our park in Tamil Nadu, we are doing EV, we are doing PV, we are also creating a cold store facility for somebody who's doing 200 pellets a day. So this is the kind of new opportunity on the industrial side. On the warehousing side, how is this driven? It's driven effectively by consumption in the country. And there are two big macros which are driving consumption. The first is urbanization, and the second is digitization. My daughter asked me, I was telling her, that do you know that in the last 10 years, 85 million people have moved into the cities in India, which is more than the population of Germany. So she said, hey dad, but how come we don't notice it? The reason is because those 85 million people look like you and me. Imagine there were 85 million Germans. So we would be saying that the complexion of our cities has changed literally and figuratively. The second thing with digitization which is happening, which is hugely critical, if you look at our age cohort, we are the youngest major economy in the world today. 50% of India is below 25 years. Two-thirds of India is below 35 years. And this India is growingly cash rich and time poor. So when you have consumers who have cash rich and time poor, and they are connected to the global ecosystem, they appreciate that quality and they want it now, what you need is very efficient warehousing and logistic solutions. So whether it be apparel, footwear, electronics and fashion. So that's all taking off. So I think we just started at the, and we are just at the runway. What we are seeing is only the tip of the iceberg. And the dominant demand, is still underwater to come up.
Thank you, Rahul. You are very passionate about this. I know this is a subject very close to heart. Sharad, one last thing, and then maybe we'll take a few questions from the audience, and then sort of wrap up on this, please. Thank you.
Sure, mate. I think anyone in this room, and I think what you've heard in the last couple of days and how Rahul so eloquently put the demand side, no one's questioning the demand side. Those numbers that you showed earlier on, the 84, that's what I question. I question whether or not this fraternity, including us on the stage, are able to actually execute. That's the biggest challenge in warehousing today. It's never been about the demand side. It's never been about the India macro. It's about our ability as a developer to do what we say we're going to do, and that's going to buy land. And buying land, still today, sector agnostic, across any sector, remains the biggest challenge. This is a long gestation, warehousing. It's a patient game. It isn't something that you can make a quick buck. It's not something you can go in and exit in 2 to 3 years. The demand is going to continue to grow. The question is how many developers are going to be able to cater for that demand? And for me, I know that I have to double my ability and double everything, which means headcount, which means the investments team on the ground, which means guys I'm looking at approvals, which means my ability to now deliver 16 million square feet to 20 million square feet a year if we're going to hit 84.9 million. That's the biggest challenge.
I wish I had some capital providers fighting for the pool of money, because it seems like both data centers as well as warehouse want to double down. And there is, at least on the expert panel that we have here, doesn't seem like demand is the issue. It's just our ability to grow and consume and build as fast as possible. So, I'm opening this to a panel about 2-3 questions, guys. Introduce yourself and we can take a question or two to wake you up. Mic here, guys. There's a mic.
Meanwhile, the one thing is clear, that these numbers are very attractive. And since both this warehousing and data center need land and building, that's our interest is there. So
yeah, I'm going to hold back these panelists outside. So if anybody wants any land deals, please take it to them. There's data center and warehouse.
At the end of the day, they need the local persons who can help them in acquiring the land, who can help them in different approvals and construction the building. That's give a new opportunity and a new area to open. And some other numbers are available on Google also. India is one of the fastest growing market in digitization. 550% increase in investment in 2021, amounting 2.2 billion. 26% of all private equity investment goes to DCs, data centers. Only 1.5% DCs globally in India. It means opportunity is endless. And why this all data is changing? Because of the COVID. The COVID has accelerated the adoption of technology, and data use has increased significantly by OTT, online gaming, smartphone, uses of e-commerce, 5G, blockchain, artificial intelligence. These all activities are multiplying day by day, and that's why these data centers are required in India and locally, not in the major city, but in all the cities, the requirement definitely is there. And in the recent policy change, these DCs are qualified as the infrastructure status. I think the capital is also available at a cheaper rate than the real estate. I think there's a lot of opportunity in this sector also. And now open for the...
And for tier 2 people.
Yes, sir, I'm Ajay Yadav, Chairman Advanced Agro from Delhi. As Manoj ji has rightly said, as a developer, we have lots of land banks and other things. If you guys on the panel can offer us any sort of JV assurances of rental incomes, I have around 2 million square foot ready space in different states. So how you can join hands as a developer with us, or as a construction partner, or as a overall headache you just gave to us? What you will support us? We will take the headache from you. All government licensing, everything we will take.
I'll probably try and answer that. There are 3 ways they can do. Either you can get the land fully cleared, title and full approvals, and give it to them, they'll buy it. They'll pay you top dollars for it. But second, you don't want to sell, then look at JV, JDs, but that's not their original style of investment. They want to buy it. Basically, it's a little bit of a problem, but we'll kar lenge. That depends on the location also, right?
But again, the question is like for approvals and everything, land banking is okay, but it is a very costly affair. So will it be a pre-agreement sort of thing?
Sure, but I think just to correct you, for us, our most successful projects since we started the business have been through JVs with local developers.
Yeah, but that's applicable to warehouse, but I think data centers want to buy their land.
Sorry, was it? Okay.
Yeah,
no, it is with the warehouse also. I'm talking about warehouse, more or less.
Yeah,
industrial
so I mean, for us, partnering with a local developer, it's 40% of my portfolio, we have local JVs across the 10 markets we operate in. And predominantly for that, it's managing the early stage, bringing the contiguous land parcel approval process, and staying in the game with us as a partner. We are also open to having local developers build the product as long as we have an agreed specification. And we obviously bring the brand. We bring the ability.
Including industrial parks?
Yeah, for sure. For sure.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Sorry.
Hello everybody. My name is Sanjay Malve. I am presenting CREDAI NACON, Maharashtra, India. One doubt was there. In UAE, there is a system of BOT. Suppose we buy a land and build, operate and transfer to the UAE government. Yeah, we can give for rent for 15 years, 20 years. Is this system is adopted over here?
So it has to be originated from the government, right?
True.
The government may come and it'll be in the form of concession over a long-term period. It can be a boot or various similar forms.
Yeah.
And there are. And in fact, in the Middle East, most of the Middle East, not just the UAE, the lands you get are in that form, in the concession form. Okay. The concept of freehold we have in India doesn't occur here very often.
So government is not having any provision to build, operate and transfer from any developer for on rental basis for long lease, long term?
So do you mean where the...
We have to construct the warehouse as per the preambles or whatever specification given by UAE. Suppose it is horticulture, yeah, something like fruits and grain storage of like that. So government must have policy that if anybody constructs the warehouse as per their preambles, can take it on rental basis for long term.
Yeah, we don't generally see
In short,
that
it is
here.
called BOT basis, build, operate and transfer.
Yeah, on a very rare cases you might see that, but you know, overall you don't generally see that kind. The government, they have the capability. First of all, they own all the land. They have the capability to develop, right?
Okay.
So they do it mostly themselves.
No, okay, that's okay. But supposing being as an investor, I buy a land from UAE government and construct a warehouse over here. Can I get any buyer to get my property on rent? Can I get the customer to get my property on rent?
Yeah.
Yeah, of course, you can get that. That's the build-to-suit solution, and you can easily get
Or
that.
that's like I have to make JV with the local UAE citizenship member or anything like that?
I'll do one thing. Once this is done, I'll come down and I explain to you the various options.
Very right.
Hope
Thank
that's
you.
fine.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
No
He'll
problem.
be
Thank you.
available offline and you can take it off stage. With that, we'll like to just sort of bring the session to a close. But just before the close, you know, there is also the launch of the book. May I request, you know, CREDAI to take over? All yours.
Actually,
Yeah.
actually, sir, just before that, I think we have a felicitation, but you're sure we can definitely have the felicitation first and then move on to the unveiling.
Book.
Yeah. Sure, let's unveil the book. Of course, this was another big announcement for all of us. So CREDAI and NROC are proud to the unveiling a report on warehousing and logistics. And for that, we'd like to invite on stage CREDAI President Harshvardhan Patodia, Chairman Satish Magar, President-elect Mr. Bamanani, to unveil the report with the panelists. Thank you very much. And of course, once again, thank you to all our panelists here for sharing key elements of data center and warehousing. And now I'd like to invite on stage our West Bengal State President, Mr. Sushil Mota, to felicitate Mr. Kalyan. Can we have a Secretary, CREDAI Youth Wing, Mr. Nitish Reddy, to felicitate Mr. Supan. State President, Mr. Minal Golecha, to felicitate Mr. Saraf. State President Mr. Raja Srinivas to felicitate Mr. Rahul Pandit. State President Mr. Minal Golecha, again, of course, on stage already, to felicitate Mr. Ajay James. State President Mr. Jagjit Maja to felicitate Mr. Sharat Gohil. And Mr. Rohit Modi to felicitate our moderator, Mr. Shobhit Agarwal.
क्या चल रहा है? लिविंग रूम में जैकवार लगा लिविंग रूम में
That was too funny ना
वैसे खन्ना तेरा वो लंदन ट्रिप कैसा था यार
What a fantastic holiday यार मजा आ गया
Did you go to Madame Tussauds? Oh, it was fabulous, I tell you.
How was the weather? Raining? हाँ but हम तो दिन भर बाहर थे
And those Indian restaurants in London?
भाई साहब जैकवार लाइट्स लग रही है
The largest bath brand in the country now also brings you the magic of light. Jaguar Bath.
Another good news, this book will be available on the app as well, the NatCon app, which, the code for which has already been WhatsApped to you. So please make sure you get your hands on that as well. Thank you very much once again for a very insightful session. Again, a very quick reminder, please make sure you download the NatCon app. The code has already been sent to you on WhatsApp. And I'm sure you can avail of many, many good things from downloading that app. Quickly moving on to our next session. Ladies and gentlemen, real estate is a Cape-heavy industry, and money is always a need for our industry, and making that paradigm shift in raising money. We will now commence our next session, which is a masterclass on overseas listing. And for that, I would like to invite our panelists. Our first panelist, can we please have you on stage, Mr. Gaurav Verma, Managing Director of EF Houghton. Round of applause. Yes, of course, let's keep the cheering going on. Mr. Alex Walker, co-founder and CEO of Odyssey Group. Round of applause, please. Mr. Kapil Singh, founder and managing partner of Capital Global. And Mr. Jesus Hoyos, managing partner, ARC Group, ARC Group. Thank you very much. Once again, the session we will be having here right now is masterclass on overseas listing. Before we go into that, I do see a lot of people. As you can see, they're still coming into the groove. Okay, I know you can hate me later. Ladies and gentlemen, let's try something. Some of you need to wake up, all right, for this session. So can we please have our right hand up? This is something my grandfather taught me. Let's have your right hand up. Yeah, great. Let's have your left hand up together. Yes, good. Now give me all your money. I'm joking, all right. I'm joking. So let's start by cheering. Let's clap. Let's get the energy going. Let's wake up, wake up, wake up. Come on. Sir, you're not clapping. Come on, bring it up, bring it up. Bring it up, bring it up. Thank you very much. All right, great, great, great. I know this session is going to be great as well because, of course, this is an absolute masterclass. Overseas listing, and we have our amazing panelists here. So whenever you're ready, sir. Thank you very much. Please take it away.
Hello. Yeah. Hi guys, is too loud? Yeah. Hi guys, my name is Chitransh, and I know it's evening time. You guys have taken a lot of information over the day, but this panel is little interesting. I mean, we've been seeing the panels largely on real estate, India, but what we've been trying to do is we have tried to bring the best service providers who could help you find overseas solution. There's an echo. Yeah. So the panel here talks about what can be done in overseas market, how you could tap into overseas market, the structurings, the products. So I have, okay. So I have with me Jesus, who is Managing Director for our Mexico office. We have Kapil, who runs these SPV and structured products. We have Alex, who runs the Odyssey Group. It's a fund management company based out of Singapore. We have Gaurav from EF Houghton. So, I mean, I'll just sit down and probably ask these guys for an introduction. Yeah, start with.
Hi, everyone. First of all, CREDAI team for inviting us to the conference. And again, pleasure meeting everyone here, and thanks for listening to the session here. Quick background on myself. This is Gaurav Verma. I'm a managing director at EF Hutton. I spearhead all the TMT coverage efforts along with the DSPAC. I've been doing banking for about 15 plus years, was at BFA Merrill Lynch and Nomura. So just broadly speaking about capital markets, I mean, US capital markets are very deep. There's ample amount of liquidity, whether it's public markets, private markets. So we'll love to get into a lot of the specifics. You know, we're very active on IPOs, M&As, all sorts of financing, both private and public. So we'll get into the specifics on this session here. Thanks, everyone.
Over to you, Alex.
Thank you. Thank you again to the CREDAI team and all the wonderful partners that have joined and sponsored this event. My name is Alex Walker. I'm originally from Sydney. I've been in the finance and asset management industry for the past 24 years. My firm is based out of Singapore, Hong Kong, Japan, and Australia. And we do a number of different things, investing in real estate, private equity, and alternative debt, predominantly across the Asia region. But we also have other solutions, including private wealth, so that assists with families looking at setting up family offices, typically in places like Singapore, which is quite popular with a lot of Indian families. But we also assist with fund and asset structuring, which also can be quite popular. So we work closely with the gentleman on this panel here. So in conjunction with our clients, setting up structures, assisting them with their wealth. Thank you again.
Yeah, hi everybody. I'm Kapil. I head Capital Global. Capital Global primarily focuses on special situations globally with public markets in mind. We look at private investments in public equities, you know, primarily looking at companies that would still need runway for about 12 to 18 months before they become more attractive to the larger players. You know, work with our set of family offices. We do co-invest in transactions. We're working very closely with other panelists on the transactions and companies that where we hold positions, you know, as shareholders or as board members. And yeah, it's a very exciting space that we are operating in. Yeah.
Hello, everybody. I'm Jesus Hoyos. I am managing partner at ARC Group. ARC Group is a global financial service firm. We specialize in helping companies in developing economies raise capital through the capital markets, especially in the US, where we work very closely with Gaurav and the EF Hutton team. We also do more traditional M&A, private debt, and private market raises. Again, out of the global perspective, most of our firm and team members are headquartered in Asia, where Chitranj, the panelist moderator, is part of our India team. He's our head of India. So we're very happy to be here and very glad to meet everybody.
Yeah, so I think thank you for those introductions. But I would like to then set up the context for this particular conversation. Here we are talking about largely that what could happen for companies which are based in India, how they can into the overseas markets, particularly US. And I would like Gaurav maybe to mention few products that are not IPO. People in India largely know what is an IPO, how it is done in the local markets, but what could happen in US markets, that would be interesting.
Yeah, happy to. So a couple really popular products I would say since 2021 has been SPAC. So not sure how many people are familiar with SPACs, but the basic purpose of a SPAC is essentially a shell company to buy a target, which is an operating asset, and reverse merge into it and get listed on a US exchange, whether New York Stock Exchange or the NASDAQ. So there's been about 25 to 30 different SPACs focused on the real estate space to go out internationally, buy hotels, buy real estate tech assets, or other avenues that are touching the broader real estate sector. It's a great way to go public if the company has audits in place, good financials in place, and it's a much faster process because it's more of an M&A versus a regular way IPO, which takes several months. You go through SEC reviews. Here it's a much faster process. So we on the EF Hutton side, we're #1 globally on SPACs. We've done over 50 SPACs alongside our team here, raised over $6 billion in capital. We've announced over 12 different deals, so very active. But I would say, besides the IPO, SPAC certainly is an asset class which is still very active. A lot of deals getting done, despite the IPO markets being shut down. So happy to provide some more context on SPAC. You know, we'll be in the room here later too, but that's an avenue that we're seeing being used to go public for real estate companies.
Yeah. Over to you, Jesus, particularly on the SPACs we have been discussing, and it's a long product, but largely for the smaller companies, what could be done in form of reverse mergers, OTC listings?
Yeah. Hello? Yeah, so in general, the US markets have always been very welcoming to middle market companies worldwide. The good thing about the US in particular is that if you follow the exchange rules and you're compliant with the SEC, as Gaurav said, is if you have your audits in place, the listing is a certainty, right? There is no ambiguity towards the process. We're very familiar with other exchanges globally, like a lot of our experience comes from Asian exchanges, particularly Hong Kong and China, right? And you have the rules and you have the unwritten rules, right? So on the rules, right, it's very similar to the US towards what are the minimum requirements for them to list. And then companies apply to list and maybe are in a waiting list 5 to 7 years, and they never get listed. Why do they never get listed? Because they're not really the size that are palatable for their exchanges, which typically look at an IPO or any capital raise above $100 million. In the US, contrary to what many people think, it's very welcoming to these smaller size, mid-market IPOs, right? In which you could go and do a direct IPO, which, as Gaurav said, right now in the current market is challenging because there is a lot of lower appetite for investors, but you have several different avenues, as we mentioned, SPACs. We also have reverse takeovers, right, in which is a process of which there was a listed entity and the current operating business went bankrupt, right? But the owners of that business own that publicly listed real estate, let's call it, right? That vehicle, right? And that vehicle does have some value, right? It has some liquidity, it already has investors. So it makes it very interesting for operating companies, especially in the smaller size, to come in and merge into those vehicles and then automatically become a public company that way. So we have seen especially a very large uptick in the last 6 months or so after some of the market cool down of these transactions going through and being very successful, and especially a lot of appetite from foreign private issuers, right? Foreign companies globally, especially in Asia, to come in through these vehicles, and then an investor interest to participate and invest alongside their local investors into these vehicles and raising the capitals that they need. So that takes us over reverse mergers, probably other vehicles that are a bit more traditional and real estate focused are REITs, right? That real estate investment trusts that work very well in the US, and they follow similar rules everywhere around the world. So that also is a very active market that currently exists, and where particularly we have worked closely with EF Hutton in doing several deals there. Mainly we have been working in the US, but this doesn't stop any international deals going through. It's still something that's palatable to investors, and from a regular regulatory standpoint, there is no restriction on it being either a domestic US company or a foreign company. So I believe that the US market just has a full gamut of possibilities and options for real estate companies to be able to list and be able to raise capital internationally.
So for what Jesus is saying, we've been trying to do in India also. We are right now working with a co-working space, doing a reverse merger, making it public. We are previously last year we did a transaction with Manipal, took their simple candle and air fragrance business public in US. You could see Renew Power. These are infrastructure-based businesses which have been raised capital, been public. So that's was the one angle largely for the overseas listing and the capital markets. Then I would ask Alex to tell us a little bit on the products. You could take 5-10 minutes to explain on the product sides. Over to you, Alex.
Sure, thank you. So the guys are obviously talking about the listed markets, and obviously you're familiar with IPOs. SPACs obviously is another option, and real estate investment trusts, or REITs, as Jesus was talking about, is another listed vehicle. Where we also specialize is in non-listed. So there are the ability and the structures to create your own funds or structures. There's also the ability to what we call institutionalize what you're doing. So many of you have heard today and yesterday that there is starting an increase with foreign capital looking at India. So that's institutions, that's larger external family offices, sovereign funds. And so what they're looking for is certain assets, certain portfolios. And so some developers may be interested in structuring products or portfolios that are attractive to those investors. And if you have an existing portfolio of assets or land, banking, whatever it might be, there could be the opportunity to structure that into an attractive acquisition, or as we heard in the last panel, potential joint ventures or joint venture partners that also could be interesting. So I think what we're seeing also from previous conversations and presentations, a lot of interest in India, and fund structures could be an option that you could consider. There are also other opportunities called AMCs, which are called actively managed certificates, which is also another way to structure or wrap around your existing assets to create a vehicle that you can then have external investor money. So ultimately, what are we referring to here? We're talking about ways to bring more capital to what you're doing as a business, or it could be a form of an exit of what you have already, or it could also be partnering up to bring additional capital to what you're doing in India. So it just really depends. Everybody's a little bit different. As the guys have mentioned, we are around today. I'll be here again tomorrow. So feel free to reach out to us and just ask us any questions. I believe our contact details are available through CREDAI, but of course, feel free to speak to us after this event as well.
Also, Alex, if you could talk about a little bit about your real estate hospitality fund, particularly what you're doing in a mature market like Japan.
Sure.
But how do you see India on those perspectives?
So I started the firm back in 2016 in Hong Kong, and essentially we are investment professionals. So we look at many different sectors, opportunities. One of the sectors we identified 5 years ago was the Japanese hospitality sector. Why that's interesting is this essentially Japan's economy relies very heavily on foreign tourism, not necessarily for the hospitality market, because 80% of the take-up is by domestic residents, but rather the tourism dollar that brings to Japan, to the general economy. And so the government is wanting to ramp up tourism from 40 to 60 million tourists a year, and the reality is they just don't have the accommodation. And we specifically focus on what we call the boutique end of the boutique hospitality market in Japan, which is for us 150 keys or less. And essentially we identify existing brownfield hotels. We acquire those ideally at an opportunistic or distressed price. We then optimize those assets either through a full renovation or light renovation, just depending on what's involved. It could also be adding additional rooms. We work with hospitality groups that want to get into Japan. We have relationships with the like of Banyan Tree, Swiss Bell Hotels, for example. And therefore, they bring their international teams, marketing and expertise to operate that asset. And over a 2 or 3 year, we get some normalized earnings, and then we look to exit the actual asset. So not a complicated strategy, but essentially that's where we see a bit of a sweet spot in the Japanese hospitality market. And we were able to get 15%, typically between 15 and 20% IRRs, 8% yields. We're borrowing debt at about 1.5% interest rate. And it's hard to find those sorts of numbers in most markets. So that's why we started 5 years ago. We had set up, there's 4 things we do in Japan. One is we have funds. So we set up a Cayman fund, bring in investors into that fund, and then we invest in Japan. Second thing is we have institutions that, for whatever reason, don't invest into funds. Just sometimes their mandate doesn't allow them to do that. And so essentially we do separately managed accounts, which is basically typically 100 million US plus. We agree a particular mandate, we identify assets, and then we execute. The third thing is we do individual syndicate deals. So we find a particular individual deal, we structure that up and bring investors in on that deal. And the fourth thing is our advisory service. So that's where we're consulting to hospital groups, other funds that are wanting to tap the particular sectors that we specialize in. So overall, we, as a group, while we're, I guess, finance people, we're also real estate people in that respect.
Interesting. Kapil, you have been working like a bridge between the people who are the, like Gauravs and Alex, who create complex financial products, to the people who are running companies by working with the founders, helping them prepare and get ready. So what has been your experience a little bit on the case studies? That would be really helpful for the audience here.
So I think what we see in Singapore, I've been in Singapore nearly 2 years now. And obviously what most of you've probably seen with Hong Kong and China has been a little bit different than it has been in the past. And so Singapore is very much becoming that, more so that financial hub. It was always sort of a Hong Kong or Singapore competing, but it's obviously quite clear that Singapore's taking the lead of late. A lot of people from Hong Kong are moving to Singapore. Singapore as a country and a government is very, very proactive for wealthy individuals, family offices that want to set up offices. They have specific legislation around structuring family offices in Singapore, and they're very supportive behind families doing that. As part of that, there's also what they call the VCC, or Variable Capital Company structure they've recently set up. That is also very supportive with family offices that want to structuring their wealth and running their family offices domestically in Singapore. But what we're seeing is more and more institutions and external capital being very interested in India. China, I wouldn't say is maturing or not interesting, but obviously very uncertain climate. And I'd like to think that, India I've always observed, but I think the world is becoming much more aware. I mean, we just saw in the last presentation with regards to warehousing and data, some very interesting numbers there. And as I say, numbers tell the story. So I think from that perspective, we're seeing a lot more people interested in going into India. But then I think there's also the Indian entrepreneurs and business people we work with are looking for people like the people on this panel to try and help them navigate how to work with these organizations, how to negotiate with these organizations to find a mutual outcome. So while we are finance people, we're also entrepreneurs in our own right. So we're always looking for solutions and working on the client's case and finding the best solution that might work for them. And educating is a big part of that process, right? So partnering together, working together for a common outcome.
So over to you, Kapil, the questions there.
Sure. We've been primarily working with companies that are near cash flow positive or still, a little away from being cash flow positive. We come into companies, we kind of structure, you sit down with the management and we structure, the long-term goals of the company, whether it's a growth or exit. The promoters are looking at, and we introduce to them, the required capital, get the ecosystem through our partners, ARC, EF, Hutton, Odyssey, and kind of, look at, how we can, take the company to the next level in case the company is looking for growth. And if in case the company is looking to exit, we try and get them the right solution. So, there are a variety of ways in which we work with the companies. No company is the same, no structure is the same. So because all of this, whether it comes to a small company accessing the US markets, may kind of sound like some kind of rocket science because, traditionally Indian markets would have heard of, NSE, BSC. Yeah, there is some distance to be covered. There's some hand-holding which is required. You've got to be a little organized, get the right kind of audits in place. And then, our partners really kind of come in and help us, cross the milestones and get the company listed.
So, in terms of real estate, we see debt plays a very important role. So, Gaurav, if you could highlight some debt products that are available in US markets, which could be tapped, like people have heard of green bonds, other parts, but there are a lot of products that are coming across.
You happy, and I'll keep it very basic. Let's take any business, data centers that we were just talking about in the panel before. It's a high growth business, stable business because it's hard assets that you could finance it against. There is a lot of different structures, and without getting into specifics on a lot of those, but there's asset-backed lending, which is based on the land they own, the equipment that's put on there. Then there's financing based on growth trajectory, which is more of an equity story. So I've worked on several data center IPOs, some of the biggest ones in the world that went public on the US exchanges. And I think there's a lot of investor demand, even in US, for companies that are in India, that are in the data center space, because for all the reasons outlined in the session before, huge population, huge growth in data consumption, all those reasons, because the US market is saturated. It's hard to really build data centers in new regions, especially with the power consumption, the ESG push. So they move into Europe. And then Asia is going to be obviously a big focus area. So I would say like the data center is a perfect example where you have IPO as an option, you have asset-backed lending as an option. On the debt side, you have straight debt, which is a bank debt. There's a lot of obviously Indian banks that do that. There's a lot of US investors that are interested in that. And there's convertible features, which have both the debt side as well as the equity piece. So there's a lot of different, I would say real estate is one of those sectors which actually has a lot of different financing structures at its disposal because it is backed by hard asset.
Interesting. So Jesus, what's your viewpoint particularly on like India? As I've been working in the market, I know we have a tax issue in terms of going public overseas. There is a holdco structure. It requires a lot of complication. We have done those journeys few times now. So what's your experience on that part?
Yeah, so the truth of the matter is that although there has not been a lot of transactions, the fact that you already have companies from India, headquartered in India, that have listed into the US markets just makes a huge precedent, right? And specifically, we're talking about, at least in the last few years, SPACs have been the main vehicle that has allowed this type of companies to list. I can talk specifically of a company called Jatra, which I believe is an online tour operator based in India, that they listed through a SPAC, I think 2013, 2014, was one of the pioneers. So the fact that even that early on in the vehicle, right, at that point where there wasn't really any institutional appetite in also a very challenging environment post the financial crisis, that they managed to get a listing and continue successfully as a listed company just proves to the market that Indian companies can, number one, go public, right? Even with all the regulatory scrutiny and the difficulties that you have around your tax system for you to be able to list overseas, even going through that hurdle, it made it worth the while for both the founders and the investors to back such companies. And currently we're working with a transaction that is a three-way merger in which one of basically the main operating entity that brings in 60-70% of the revenues is an Indian-based company with linked to a very
Manipal.
Manipal, there you go. Yeah, so that will give us, at least for us, a bit more experience on the specifics and the particularities of Indian public, especially in this case, like it's pretty much cleared already by the SEC. So we know that all of these are hurdles that can be managed, and we've had personal experience dealing with this type of issues. So I just want to say that it's possible. It's not easy, but it's definitely something that, because you do have the institutional interest. And again, the good thing about the US markets is that once you're public, no one cares who you came from, right? You have that public currency that allows you to raise subsequent funds, right? You can do subsequent capital raises with the help of the likes of EF Hutton, do secondary offerings, right? Especially a shelf offering, right? That would allow you to draw down money basically overnight from high net worth individuals, from funds. So that really opens up the financing possibilities for companies, and especially international companies, that it's a market that is usually non-existent in their local economies.
No, I think we have seen earlier also, like Make My Trip, Renew Power. Those are the companies that opted for a SPAC route, and Renew has been successfully been able to raise more than 1.4 billion now, including the latest one, just being public in the US, because it gives that depth. So coming to you, Gaurav, on the depth part, like because you're typical a Wall Street guy, so your experience on the depth of the NASDAQ or NYEC, and particularly how you can leverage that depth for the other part of the world's companies like Asian companies, and for small companies like in India, a $1 billion company is what we call it as unicorn, is a big listing. But if you see in US, less than billion is still a small cap. So how do you see that part navigating for that less than $1 billion companies listing?
I think there's a lot of questions there. So I think where we focus, EF Hutton, is more in the cap space. So it is sub $1 billion. Majority of our deals are probably, I would say, 100 million to 500 million range. And we have about 30 different SPACs. Like I said, these are public shell companies looking for good targets to combine with. We're running out of good targets in the US, so we're actively looking at targets in Asia, India. I know we just closed a deal with a company in Britain, in Singapore. So in terms of companies that you guys work for that are private, or companies that you own personally, there's no size definition. We've worked on small deals as much as 50 million, 25 million, to as large as $1 billion deal we recently closed. So we have a lot of, I would say, SPAC entities that are looking for targets to go public, and EF Hutton can help you guys raise financing for that. We can go through structuring, whether it's debt, equity, whatever is needed as part of that. We're very actively searching targets in Asia, and India is certainly a focus area.
Yeah. So I think that also clears that misconception that you have to be a big company for listing process. It need not to be a big company. Like it depends on what product are you choosing, how are you choosing, and the partners you definitely are working with. Over to you, Alex, particularly on the fund side. Like how could Indian developers, real estate people, they can tap into overseas market we have seen not many real estate funds professionalize in form like Blackstones, and those are from the outside market. But developers taking that center stage is still not happening.
So typically in the, what we would describe, not really as offshore market, but the Asia-Pacific market of fund structures, you've typically got Cayman, and then also now Singapore with what they call the VCC structure, which basically Singapore's, I don't want to say copied the Cayman structure, but it reviewed it as part of their setting up the VCC. So typically for international investors, which could be institutions, sovereign funds, could be family offices, etc. Normally they'll invest in what you might call a feeder fund. And so that feeder fund would be, say, set up in Cayman or Singapore. And then that vehicle would, say, invest into India, into either a domestic vehicle or fund that may have been set up. And that vehicle will essentially hold the domestic real estate, land banking, what it might be. And so these sorts of investors look for these sorts of structures, and these structures have, auditors like KPMG, they have fund administrators that check all the numbers and make sure it's all done. So this is what we call institutionalizing a product, because in order for this capital to invest, it requires these types of checks and balances. And you say, well, why would I want to operate that way, or why would I want to operate to attract this capital? Well, there's a lot of capital in the world looking for opportunities. And often these large pools of capital have certain requirements for them to be able to invest. Internally, in their, what they call investment mandates, it has to tick a long list of various things. And so what we are familiar with is that long list, and we're familiar with the offshore structures. So I think like a developer is often looking for capital, whether it be equity or debt, which has been discussed a little bit earlier this morning. And I think it's not purely about anymore looking domestically in India. I remember there was a gentleman this morning that quoted out of the 30-odd thousand CREDAI members, there was only like 900 that had access to domestic bank financing. So the question is, can you get offshore debt financing? Can you get offshore equity financing? And I think what we're starting to see, from what we see and also what we're hearing at the conference, there is a lot more of foreign investor or lender interest. But as I say, they're going to expect certain structures, certain things in place, checks and balances. But for those who are wanting to attract that capital, interested in that capital to expand what they're doing, their vertical, their sector, whatever it might be, that's something that we can help with. So essentially, we say funds, but it could be different types of vehicles. It could be a special purpose vehicle, it could be a company, some sort of vehicle that helps that offshore capital to be collected and then fed into India and then deployed accordingly.
Interesting. So I would just, because I live and breathe India now, so it's like, and working with a lot of entrepreneurs there, the struggle and challenges is also I wanted to highlight, because people see overseas listing as an attractive opportunity sometimes, but when they go deep dive, they understand it, there are a lot of hurdles around place. Few of them being the audit process, which is that you need to be a PCOB audit to be an US listed company. Then there is a share issue, a big issue in taxation. So that means that you have to have an overseas holding structure to ensure that you can be a public entity through that. But the good part about the US is the depth. You have Indian markets, but it could be as small as that. Let's say you have a rental business, you could just sell it to a REIT. It's as simple as that. You could have a company, you could merge with a listed entity in US, and you could become a listed company and then do tradings. And US particularly, it's not about always selling the shares, buying the shares. there are a lot of products and nuanced products around that. I think that's where the depth and the beauty comes from the market. I think, I mean, over to you, the panelists, to, if you want to add some last comments.
I just wanted to add a little bit earlier, someone referenced that this is not India's next decade, this is the next century. I'm sure everybody in this room knows, but if you look at the past 500 years and you look at super cycles as economies, right, from Europe to Holland through to UK, US, and essentially we're now moving from the US over to Asia, primarily China, but India is still very much akin to that, a very important part of that cycle. So I guess what we see is we have experience in the developed markets like the US and things of that nature, Europe and things. But essentially we've been in Asia a long time and we're starting to see that shift, the purpose of what's happening with India, in India. This institutionalization, this international capital seeking a home. So it's not really a matter of, is there capital out there? Yes, there is. It's just a matter of attracting that capital to the right opportunity. So that's why we took the opportunity to be here and travel down to have a chat. I think there's a lot of very smart panelists here. I would take the opportunity to, not just this panel, but a lot of the other people have spoken as well. I think are all very happy to share their knowledge. And I think what I appreciate here is everybody has a very great philosophy and attitude of sharing and building each other up and working together, which I think is very refreshing. Because traditionally in business, as we know, everybody's thinking everybody is a competitor. But I think the new paradigm is that, if you can work together and achieve common outcomes, achieve more together. That's actually in our name, Odyssey. That's why I chose it. Basically, the view of going on a journey together. So that's just wanted to leave that last point. And again, we're happy to speak to anybody. Obviously, every case is different. So essentially, any case or anybody that chats with us, we're going to share with the panel, discuss what's the best solution for that person. We don't have one particular product or one solution to sell, so to speak, or push. Essentially, our business is based on achieving the right outcome for the client. So I wanted to also stress that.
So people compare China and India, and I think that is where I want to end my panel here. You see 400 plus Chinese listings on NASDAQ and US, and from India we have 17, include 13 ADRs. So I think that is where the opportunity is, and I think with time this will grow, a big time. Over to you, CREDAI.
Thank you so much, Chitransh. Sorry, before I could introduce you, you just jumped up in a hurry. So once again, let's give our moderator, Chitransh, a round of applause. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, it's now time to have our felicitations. Can I please invite on stage Chairman, CYW and CWW, Mr. Jagannath Bhandari, to felicitate Chitransh. Can we please have you on stage, sir? Can I also have Mr. Abhishek Batewara to felicitate Mr. Verma? Can we please have Mr. Nitish Reddy to felicitate Mr. Walker? And can I please have Mr. Hiren Parmar to felicitate Mr. Singh as well as Mr. Hoyos? All right. Slight change of plans. Can we have our very own Benita Dalaji to felicitate Mr. Singh and Mr. Hoyos? Thank you very, very much for being a panelist. All right, after the quick photo op, we have to move to, let's welcome on stage Mr. Manish Jain, Senior Manager South Asia from Lubrizol Advanced Materials India, who is also our associate partner. Lubrizol Advanced Materials is a leading global producer of advanced specialty polymers, polymer-based additives, and chemical additives used in everyday consumer and industrial applications. Sir, it's all yours. Thank you.
Hello, good afternoon, everyone. I thank CREDAI to have given us this opportunity to talk about how Lubrizol has helped the real estate industry improve the quality of buildings. To talk about this, let me share a small video with you to start off. Can we have the video, please?
Metal pipes dominated the plumbing industry, which had issues of corrosion leading to leakages and health issues. In 2000, Lubrizol inventors and world #1 company in CPVC introduced FlowGuard CPVC piping systems. FlowGuard pipes overcame the issue of corrosion, leakages, and were certified for potable water. They are UV stable, suitable for hot and cold water, fire resistant, and extremely user-friendly. Steadily as years passed, the acceptance of FlowGuard CPVC technology spread all over the country. And today, FlowGuard Plus is the first and preferred choice of the buildings industry. Lubrizol continues its innovation by improving the product, educating the industry, supporting and training plumbers. So, choose FlowGuard Plus for all your plumbing needs. FlowGuard Plus pipes are brought to you by Ashirvad Pipes Private Limited and Prince Pipes and Fittings India Limited.
Thank you. I think so. You all would agree plumbing in the 19th century had a lot of problems, and Lubrizol CPVC has helped eradicating all these problems. Now today we bring to you one more product which will help further strengthen your construction industry and take away a lot of your problems. With this, we introduce Blaze Master. Can we have the presentation, please? The presentation, please. So with this, we introduce Blaze Master, our fire protection system, the world's most specified and used CPVC fire protection system is now available in India from Ashirvad Pipes. It is permitted for use in light hazard occupancy, that's high-rise residential apartments, hotels, buildings, offices, and retrofit projects. Next slide, please. You know, when we talk about the credentials of Blaze Master piping system, Blaze Master is approved by NFPA, LPCB, FM, UL. These are all international standards. And today, in India, it's also approved by the Bureau of Indian Standards and also the fire departments of Mumbai, that's Maharashtra Fire Services, Delhi, Hyderabad, Bangalore, and most of the fire departments have given it the necessary approval. So why should you use this? See, we brought an end to corrosion in plumbing. Now we are here with BlazeMaster. A few reasons why you should be using it. It's quick and simpler, saves a lot of time. Further, it's very easy to install, no welding, no threading. It's a solvent cement jointing system, saves space, simple jointing system, no corrosion, no leakages. So you can see how metal pipe would, in fact, if the sprinkler had to give way and you have that corrosion in the sprinkler, it may not work. This is fire tested, as I said, suitable for fire installations. Importantly, these smooth surfaces allow you to use smaller diameter pipes as per the code. So I think so this, I would like to state a very big thank you to CREDAI. We've been associated with CREDAI for the last 15 years in all their NatCons and various platforms where we've talked about our product and how we can help. Lubrisol's mission is to move cleaner, create smarter, and live better so that the world is a much more better and sustainable place to live. Further, Lubrizol is committed to the Indian market. Lubrizol, although has manufacturing plants around the world, but we made a big investment in 2017 where we put a installation compounding plant of 65,000 metric ton of CPVC in India in 2017. And we have further committed one more resin plant. So now the product would become a 100% make in India product brought to you to help in overcoming the corrosion issues of your plumbing and firefighting. I thank you, and we have a small stall outside. We would request you to kindly take some time and visit us, and we can come over and help you in providing better solutions in plumbing and fire. Thank you all.
Thank you very much, sir. Thank you so much. Right, moving on. Can I please welcome on stage Mr. Subhakar Rao Surapaneni, Chairman and Chief Coach, Champions Group and Champion Infratech Private Limited. Champion Infratech, our real estate subsidiary, has swiftly become one of the most successful ventures by providing an unsurpassed benchmark in the construction and residential commercial projects. Thank you very much for being here, sir. Thank you.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you all for joining this trillion-dollar momentum. Here we are at the CREDAI NatCon, introducing one of the world's top amenities, world-class crystal lagoons. I'll actually quickly take you through this in a couple of minutes. Then we'll have a video played a little later due to the paucity of time. With that said, I'll quickly talk about crystal lagoons, which is a world-class amenity that can make each of your projects really double up in value and increase your sales velocity. Can I do a quick audit? How many of you have either a 10-acre project underway or a land bank of at least 10 acres or more? Can I see a quick show of hands? Okay, I see a bunch of them. That's phenomenal. So these are the projects that can really benefit from crystal lagoons. I'll actually play this a little bit after this. I think there is due to paucity of time, they have quickly asked me to wrap up without the video, but I'll also play the video a little later. If you look at the market space at large, you're currently having I think the Indian market space has a lot of projects coming, but we really don't have world-class projects coming. Obviously, we're building towers and we're building villas, but we're really not having world-class amenities in these projects. And that's exactly what makes your location rock. India being India has CRZ laws, which make sure even beachfront project doesn't really get the permissions for you to build villas or build apartments on this beachfront project. This is where a project like Crystal Lagoons comes to play, where we enable world-class initiatives. Excuse me. So while we okay, fantastic. I'll quickly take you through this. Crystal Lagoons already has over 1,000 projects across the world, proven, tested, world-class water projects with over a couple of thousand patents, phenomenal awards across 60 countries. So if you see the unique advantage that you have when you plus project and deploy a couple of acre lagoon in your project, you instantly double the value. You instantly get your sales done as soon as you announce the projects. This is something we're seeing world over. We're introducing that in India for the first time. Creates an idyllic beach destination. You can put up a hotel, you can put up an apartment tower, you can put up villas, you can think of a convention center all around your project. This is obviously the meeting point for the 21st century. You're seeing numerous revenue sources. You can have a clubhouse with membership given now. You can have apartments on one side. You can also have convention centers. You can have public access lagoons. The various use cases for this, I'll quickly go through this and I will come back with a video a little later. But if you see, it's patent pending. It's a superior way of maintaining your water as well in a cost-effective way. You don't need to spend as much on chlorine. You obviously have new age ultraviolet sound technology which enables superior cleansing and large high quality water projects. I'll quickly take you through the last slide, which is basically the numerous benefits of it. You obviously are happier on water, naturally, right? It's because, what do you think each of us are comprised of? 70% water. So you're connected to yourself very well when you're close to water. And obviously healthier as well. You can no longer worry about the regular swimming pools. You can definitely be far more healthier with this initiative. You can look at being that dominant century makers. India is poised to be, this is our century, and in this 7 trillion economy, I think it's an opportunity for all of you who said you have a 10-acre plus plot to become a $1 billion project, each of you. Yeah. So with that said, I'll quickly wrap up. Thank you all for this phenomenal opportunity. Let's make that $1 trillion economy happen from the real estate side.
Thank you very much, sir. Well, give me a round of applause. Thank you. All right. On to our next section. Ladies and gentlemen, it's time for our next session, which is the Master of Disruption. And for that, I would like to call on stage Mr. Ram Reddy, Vice President, CREDAI, to moderate the session. Round of applause for Mr. Reddy. Also, our next speaker is, I'm pretty sure everybody is looking forward to this session as well. So please welcome Dr. Velumani, creator of ThyroCare. Give him a round of applause. Born in Coimbatore in 1959, did his MS and PhD from Mumbai. And of course, in 2016, his company ThyroCare got listed in the NSE, and in June 2021, he exited ThyroCare, and it touched $1 billion USD valuation, a storyteller par excellence on life, career, and business. I think for you, sir, especially, can we have the Jaguar lights and take it away, sir. Thank you.
Good evening. Good evening. First, let me congratulate Team MCHI for wonderful, powerful sessions. Really excellent sessions. Lot of motivations we have been listening from various. Again, today evening, we have a
a very, very special person here, Dr. A. Velumani of Thyrocare. So his humble beginning, he came from a very small village near Coimbatore, and he always talks that he is proud to be a poor, or fortunate to be a poor, fortunate to be a farmer's son, and he started his journey with 500 rupees. He went to Mumbai, and 3 nights he spent in VT station in the railway platform, and he built an empire of 4,000 crores of thyroid care. What a journey, sir. Really, I welcome you for this CREDAI evening.
Thank you very much.
Sir, your journey, I mean, I've gone through your various videos and great interaction with you. Really, it's amazing. Always you talk about the values. You have a 3T formula and with various examples, tying a knot with a hair, lots of things. I mean, amazing journey. So let me, I think first you just to take over,
Thank you.
we'll just go for the moderation and go for some questions from the audience also.
नमस्कार. लग रहा है थक गए हैं. नमस्कार. वो जो सावजी भाई को इतना आवाज दे रहा था, मुझे कोई मदद ही नहीं कर रहा है. जो सुना था उनसे, उसको पंच लाइन में पहले बता दूं. जो जीतता है वो शायद हार सकता है, लेकिन जो जिताता है वो कभी हारता नहीं है. दूसरा, देने में जो खाता है कभी भूखा मर सकता है, लेकिन जो खिलाता है वो कभी भूखा नहीं मरता है. और उनकी जो भाषण था उसमें इतना ह्यूमर था. हेलो इतना ह्यूमर था. जो हंसता है वो शायद रो सकता है, लेकिन जो हंसाता है वो कभी रोता नहीं है. तो ये मदरासी का खुद का बनाया हुआ हिंदी पंचलाइन है, और एक बार तालियां दे डालिए. So fortunately I was poor. कोयम्बटूर, अप्पनायकन बट्टी पुदूर, मदरासी के मुंह से भी शब्द नहीं निकलता है, कोशिश मत करिए. Fortunately from a village. Villages are the true universities, from where you get an MBA, only practical, there is no theory. सुबह से शाम तक प्रॉब्लम सॉल्विंग. मैं ये आज सुबह ये पकड़ा. सुबह से शाम तक प्रॉब्लम सॉल्विंग. And fortunate, poverty, luxury of poverty. Poor people are extremely lucky in this world. You know why? Success in life is delta. Delta is equal to x2 minus x1. x2 is where you are today. x1 was where you were that day. And if you are poor, x1 was 0. And is there any downside for 0? Lucky are those who are born to poor. My father was simple. Any she reared 2 buffalo. Children. University. One Mr. Kamraj was there. He was a man who brought meals to the school. अगर आया तो no dictionary, no parent-teacher association, no school bus, no Baiju. I write a book on how I became a graduate. 59 born. In 78, I became a first-class BSc graduate. When I finished my 12th standard, I didn't have a textbook, only library. Unfortunately, I had 200 out of 200 in mathematics. Unfortunately, I could not do engineering. 5-year course my father refused. He told join a 3-year course. In the prospectus, BCom BSc option. BCom 4 letters, BSc only 3 letters. BCom is 300, BSc is 400. So my father told me to join BCom. 1 month, full month, I was in BCom. One Professor Dr. K.R. Karthikeyan, who is now no more, and he asked me, no engineering, I am poor, sir. No chemistry, I am poor, sir. Sir, 100 rupees, sir. Trust me, from his pocket, he took out 100 and took me from commerce to scientific block. अगर वो नहीं होता, मैं scientist नहीं बनता, entrepreneur नहीं होता, आज इधर कड़ा रहकर story नहीं बोलता. Why am में एग्जाम जून महीना में front of a girl whom and asking तुम्हारा कितने बच्चे decision in my and number would be farmer 4 all because you take English punchline. English is a language, English is not knowledge. So Coimbatore rejected me and I got dejected and finally I ejected. Jayanti Janata Express, August 18, 1982, Kanyakumari to Mumbai via Coimbatore, S9, 41 birth number, 500 rupees in the body, not in the pocket. 500, right? Landed in VT railway station like a dawn. Trust me, because I came for an interview to Baba Atomic Research Center government job. I didn't want to take a risk because 50 hours of journey it may take delayed and I will lose the opportunity. So, ek din pehle aaya tha. Lady Luck smiled at me. August, you know how it pours in Mumbai. Last train, ऐसा VT स्टेशन में मेरा आ गया, उसका बाद पूरा ट्रेन बंद. इंटरव्यू में सिर्फ 50 लोग आया था, 50 वैकेंसी. I was asked a question, Where is thyroid? मैं तो मैथमेटिक्स था, मैं सोचा thyroid यहाँ कहीं होएगा. Trust me, I said I don't know. I don't know where thyroid was. 10 years, 1992, I become a PhD in thyroid biochemistry. In 2002, I run world's largest thyroid testing laboratory. If you do what you have leader. My father, anybody who has a marriageable age daughter has to love a boy. He proposed, I refused. He again proposed. Father-in-law and impressive. You must understand. Marathi. Sixth time he came, money abhi tu sambal. I sat in front of him, very, very cute face, my father-in-law. Had I not seen the girl, I would have told a lot more reasons. But after seeing the girl, telling that I'm not interested is not making sense. My mathematics mind went very fast. Why not I meet her again and discourage her rather than displeasing this gentleman? Can I talk to her for 1 hour? Yes, he arranged. Madam Kama Road, State Bank of India, 14th floor. He was working in State Bank of India. 1 hour. Kitna minute hai? 55 minutes I only talked. 5 minutes absolute silence. I decided I must marry her. Have you ever seen a girl silent for 1 full hour? वो भी होने वाला पति का सामने. You want to know in 55 minutes what I talked? I can tell you in 55 seconds. Paying a stone, घर नहीं है, घर कभी नहीं खरीदेगा. Builder के सामने क्या story बोल रहा हूँ सुनो. घर कभी नहीं खरीदा जाएगा. I am the eldest son of my parents, so my parents are your parents. I'm the eldest brother, so everybody's marriage is your responsibility. For our marriage, I don't have money. You only have to fund me. Last but not the least, you funding me should not be known to your father. Any girl will still agree. I told her, if you still want to marry me, tell your father to meet me today. Otherwise, tell him, isme kuch problem hai, refuse. Night, my father-in-law came to my home. That means I am getting married. Trust me, I asked my wife, क्या अच्छा लगा? क्या अच्छा लगा? Naak? Gal? I discouraged so much. Why did you marry me? I knew you were discouraging. कोई ऐसा बोलता है कि मेरा ये नहीं है, वो नहीं है. You are trying to avoid. नहीं. में there's a very so came with only. I never thought I some more degrees. I to have 10 years under a blind man. 10 साल उस 10 साल he became on my him. He made in thyroid by so increments in time. Son is 5 years, daughter is 3 years. comfort zone. Comfort zones are danger zones. अपने आप से पूछा कि जीने आया या जीतने आया? जीना तो कोयम्बतूर में ही जी सकता था, मुंबई तक आया तो जीतना है। बड़ा बनना है या बुढ़ा होना है? बुढ़ा तो अपने आप होता है, वो भी सरकारी नौकरी में जल्दी होता है। बड़ा बनना है तो रिस्क लेना है। एक तमिल में कहावत है, I think there are some people who have come from Tamil Nadu. I should justify. बार मैं तमिलन होके हिंदी में ये पंचलाइन बोलूं, वो लोग बागर जाके मुझे मारेगा। The Tamil punchline is மயிரை கட்டி மலையை இழுக்கிறது. மயிரை கட்டி மலையை இழுக்கிறது, வந்த மலை அந்த மயிறு। लंबा एक बाल खींचो, उसमें एक नाट बांधो, एक पहाड़ के ऊपर डालो, खींचो, आया तो पहाड़, गया तो बाल। आया तो पहाड़, गया तो बाल। Trust me, I had 2 lakh rupees of provident fund. बाल। I built a $1 billion company. पहाड़ आ ही गया। So I took it to resign. Either you do normal. We have the buy. To do if you discuss never advise. Simple. Friday I open my drawer, see in my book balance. Imagine is one. Right hand side. Number 3, my wife is working with State Bank of India. Resigned. Went home. Didn't tell anything in the dinner table. Night 2 o'clock, she asked me, "आप आज सोया नहीं है?" I have resigned. She knows that in the night I don't tell lies. And she was horizontal, vertical. Like, and she से अब ड्यूटी पे नहीं जाएगा तो मैं भी नहीं जाऊंगी। 3 टिक में 1 टिक गया। Until that time I was horizontal, then I also became vertical. और उसका बाद बोला, चलो साथ जिएंगे, साथ मरेंगे, क्योंकि मैं तो सलमान खान हूँ, एक बार डिसीजन लेता हूँ, मैं बदलता नहीं हूँ। Right, so resigned. My wife also resigned, and after a few months I asked her, क्या हिम्मत थी जब भी मैं तुम्हारी बलबूत में मैं रेजिग्नेशन देने के लिए सोच के आया था, तो भी मुझे समझा नहीं है। Look, cool. I know you can win, but I also know without me you can't win. This is about over now. Velumani, how and आत्मा बोलता है, we were successful. Interest and my cost punchline. If you know COGS, what is COGS? Cost of goods. If you know COGS, you can do business. But you know COGS of you can disrupt. I got a lot of auditors were, sorry, price 600. 30. I said, boys, unemployed, underemployed. मार्केट 600 रुपया चार्ज करता है, तुम मेरा फ्रेंचाइजी बन जाओ, तुम 300 रुपया चार्ज करो, 150 रुपया तू रख लो, 100 रुपया मुझे, 200 रुपया तू रख लो, 100 रुपया मुझे दे दो. That fellow fell unconscious. आज तक वो होश में आया ही नहीं है. Mind you, I told him to charge how much? 300. He is charging 600 and he is giving me only 100 because there is MRP in real estate as well as medical business. I don't know about real estate business, but regarding medical business, let me tell you, there are 3 kinds of medical business people. One who makes money, other who makes a lot of money, third one who makes a hell of money. So get into business. I will be very happy to see the prospering healthcare industry. You are very powerful. Number 3, if you at all you visited Coimbatore, there is a brand Annapurna. That man in 70s, single kitchen, multiple restaurant. मैं वही गांव का हूं. मुझे लगा कि लेबोरेटरी भी किचन रेस्टोरेंट मॉडल है. जहां खून कलेक्ट करते हैं वो रेस्टोरेंट है, कहां टेस्ट करते हैं वो किचन है. Simple. Here Mumbai, it worked. Pune, Surat, Nasik, 3-hour train journey, it works. Delhi, Calcutta, Chennai, 3 hours air journey, it worked. So centralized kitchen for $1 billion testing I brought in. Next point, I have done a Ola. Until Ola came into picture, taxis were standing for 20 hours. They were running for 4. They stand there for 2 hours. It gives you only. I didn't do pathology. I didn't do microbiology. I did biochemistry. Biochemistry is scalable. Biochemistry is idiot-proof. Normal everything. Name itself is in a get pigs. क्या हुआ? पेशेंट का फोन. Thyrocare test. No, I do thyroid. You don't do thyrocare. Powerful. So I have 100 are the most powerful place one can learn. Great. All these combinations put together created a company. In that company, what is unique outcome? Because I took only freshers, industry had 25% HR cost, I had 10% HR cost. It's a very, very big difference. I want all of you to understand, all employees need not have experience. In an aircraft, there are 10 crew. Only 2 need to have brain, rest need to be beautiful. Hello? And the beautiful need not and should not think. Same thing they have to tell every flight 3 times, 4 times. Nowadays it is recorded, right? So I employed freshers and I managed man management. and I knew it exactly well क्योंकि सास भी एक I knew make so I this zero debt of zero debt. How did you learn zero? India, I am the chief. My balance 25 years. This equity I sold my share company. IPO, they sold their share. Company is creating a if you are go on your value is half x. And if the investor is coming and pitching about himself, your value is double x. I wanted little more business, so I gave an advertisement. The minute I gave advertisement, I didn't get business, but I got investors. So they were on my table. They wanted to buy the stock. I don't want to sell. We want to buy your stock. Yes, 400 crores. Huh? How? 400 crores? You are on my table. Hello? You are on my table. Before they finished the cup of coffee, they went away. I was extremely happy because I don't want to sell. Exactly after 6 months, the same guys come. Before the coffee came, next time again, they told check laya. Hundred. Tata. Crore within 1 year to 1200. 5 years ago, they want to. They're dreaming. My brother throughout. On that problem, I left Coimbatore only for a thrill. Married a Bombay girl only for a thrill. The government job only for a thrill. Allowed a private equity to come inside only for a thrill. I want thrill, I want IPO. Trust me, I had an IPO in 2016 April, and first day itself subscribed 4 times, second day 15 times. I thought third day it will be 25 times. Trust me, when evening 4 o'clock when the stock exchange was closed, it was announced that 74.5 times Thyrocare has got subscribed. 35,000 crore into the account. All bank managers came to know Thyrocare is run by Velumani. All my people in my district, oh, Amara Velumani. Another important point, don't come to line, become. 9 o'clock, there is a in the smartphone. managers, ROs, कुछ मतलब नहीं from Bombay. And उनका कंप्यूटर हैंगिंग होता था तो मुझे लायर नोटिस आया था. 4 days for the problem. Do in taking this money? Hello? To go thinking. आज से 25 साल 30 साल पहले मैं वीटी रेलवे स्टेशन में सो रहा था, 1 किलोमीटर देने के लिए तैयार नहीं है. आज बोलता है पैसा ले लो. 50 crores. And I so took money and they went away. In the stock to ring the bell. Nothing could be done. Only 50 days before her death, we diagnosed. So 100 days story is over. DRHP everywhere she only had signed, and I alone had to go and ring the bell. Trust me, I told you in the beginning, I didn't want to marry. And I told you what and all conditions I told. And trust me, she is the lady behind this successful man who taught me Hindi, Marathi, Gujarati, who taught me, he made me MSc, PhD, and a scientist, who made me scientist, entrepreneur, and a storyteller. Wherever she is, she must remember, I never acknowledged her until she was not there. So that's the power of the lady. Don't become emotional. This point, I become emotional, but without emotion, there is no life. Company listed, $500 million, Velumani powerful, but he lost his wife, so he lost his direction. 5 years ago, COVID came. Hospital diagnostic PCR every night. About thyroid. Made sure that the collection center became 400 capacity and stop. उसमें रजनी शेर तो आखे. So I sat and closed the deal. And the deal was dollar valuation. I had 5 in my body. Get this amount, and me, selling was a decision. Everything was a decision. There are only 2 kinds of people on this earth. One is successful, other could not take decisions. Only 2 kinds of people. One focused, other did not focus. I think I will give him some time to ask me some questions. मैं तो बहुत बोलते ही जाता हूँ. Let me also tell, for every successful man, there is a lady behind. And for every failed man, there are many ladies behind. And two ladies were behind me. One was my mother, as I said. She kept me alive till I was 25. The second one was my wife, who took care of me subsequently. I am tempted to tell, though here there are not many ladies. This is my perception. This is the truth, that if men are successful, families prosper. And if women are successful, societies prosper. So that's my story. And I would be getting back to having some questions. And if a time is there, you can ask me some questions. I'm very powerful in giving punchlines. There are plenty of punchlines.
What a story, sir. Is with बड़ा बनना है
I priced it to no company closed down because they have priced it. Builder bow low, priced it low. नहीं है कौन इसे
Sir, great. I mean, lot of learnings for us. So many, really wonderful. Your journey is values from you. You have to learn. So apart from this, sir, I came. Don't have any home. Having such a wonderful empire you created, but you don't have home. So हमारा बिजनेस कैसे चलेगा, हमारा धंधा कैसे चलेगा? आप जैसा लोग इतना बड़ा लोग है, अगर
आप ये मत सोचिए प्लेटफॉर्म में सो रहा था चालू प्लेटफॉर्म से सो के चालू था I had a 200,000 huge laboratory 5,000 square feet को घर बना के मिसेस को बच्चे को इतना ही बोला था मैं कभी घर नहीं आऊँगा तुम लोग चाहेगा तो यहाँ रह सकता है Trust me, for 25 years, my wife and children have lived me in the laboratories.
Wow,
this is some humor भी चाहिए ना सरदार बार बार बोलता था मैं शेर का पुत्र हूँ मैं शेर का पुत्र हूँ उनकी दोस्त थोड़ा तो मेरा मिसेस ऑफिस में घर का he carried today he has hotels rooms तो नहीं होता said that but purchased only it gives you
built to
senior most to the title of the memorability we must celebrate. I have so रोने का आवाज आया, मैं भी रोया, मीटिंग खत्म, मैं रूम पे चला गया. Me, it's not easy. You build entire organic company. कोई company छोड़ के नहीं गया. Promoter छोड़ के जा रहा है. Very emotional. Having said that, I think all the men, women who are here, whose daughters were married, must have cried a lot. नासिक कसाला मराठी म्हणजे कसाला focus some an in a gram focus is very important. There are one who is successful did not. Number two, it means because you well generation 5-6 children. Today there are 5-6 bedrooms. Okay, focus, frugality. Stamina. पास स्टैमिना होता है, ना बाप से डरता है, ना बास से डरता है. So stamina is very important. Third, knowledge. If you have no knowledge, then you don't have courage. And if you don't have courage, you can't take any decision.
Yeah. In my company, I follow trust, train, track, the 3 T's. When to achieve any goal, first you have to trust yourself, then you have to train yourself to achieve the goal, and you have to track yourself to whether you are going the right direction or not, the 3 T's. And you have another 3 T's. I want to hear from you.
Yes, ladies and gentlemen, listen to me carefully. Success in life is only with 3 T's. If you are not truthful, your spouse will not live with you. Your family will not be with you. Your employees there is no truth, transparency. Truth and transparency, trust. If you have
during our customers
why I saw closing balance of 2 lakh rupees, because I was not a consumer. So I have noticed not बार money sounds simple. Money is collected by yes. It does. So is money be. Create, don't consume. Most powerful way of living is creating but not consuming. आजकल मॉल में जाता हूँ मेरे बच्चे लोगों को लेके, डैडी ये खरीदेंगे क्या, ये डैडी देंगे क्या, दोनों को साइड में लेके जाता हूँ. माल की ओनर ने देखो पूरा माल खरीदेंगे, माल में माल नहीं खरीदेगा.
Every business has lows and highs. Did you ever felt low?
Let me tell you, since I never had a debt, I never had an EMI, there was never low. You understand what is it is? Always it is the pressure. Low. Having said that, there are 4 words: error, failures. If you plenty of errors, So having advice to make mistakes. Don't in life, whichever of mistake of increments. Other guy who doesn't working. Also one more punchline. Agni says paid life. Right? If you can eliminate the underpaid assets and elevate the underpaid assets and eliminate the overpaid liabilities, you will be the most powerful one. When it comes to HR, I remember the popular saying, if you don't take care of your wife, your neighbor will. Extension, if you don't take care of your employee, your competitor will. Take care.
So we as a real estate things, we come through lot of issues. I mean, GST, demonetization, RERA, then global recession, and now no sales happens. Lot of pressure we take. So what is your suggestion? How do we have to come out of these pressures?
You are taking pressures. There is no pressure. What we do, I'll tell you. Number 1, there is a song in Tamil. In Hindi, if I tell, अगर आपको उसमें पत्थर दिखता है तो भगवान नहीं दिखाई देगा, लेकिन आपको उसमें भगवान दिखाई दिया तो पत्थर नजर नहीं आएगा. अगर आपको अपॉर्चुनिटी नजर आया, कंपटीशन नजर नहीं आएगा. अगर कंपटीशन नजर आ गया तो अपॉर्चुनिटी नहीं दिखाई देगा. So according to me, these are all few points in the journey. You don't have to sit and cry. Hindustan in will just is नहीं है. COVID India will become number 1. China number 1 will become number 1. I am you know who is first? भाई और बहनों, आज तक second, I am the third best because Sauji is the second best storyteller. Having, if you when race have to employees because they are getting the stories. So I don't know what for I got, and I got into a lot of aspect, the storytelling. And if you want to make your children richest, don't accumulate assets. Tell them how to tell stories. If they can tell wonderful stories, they can become prime minister. If the story is average, they can become chief minister or deputy chief minister. And if it is still little low, Patanjali, Sri Sri kinds of people. For one, diarrhea of thoughts, constipation of words. Man, diarrhea of words. Storyteller.
You attended developers. What are your advice?
No, I must have invitation. I refused. Phone में कोई कला here I have energy, lineup of wonderful like CREDAI for take my you to see and learning and understanding. बधाई हो, बधाई.
Thank you so much. And finally, go on giving line. I wanted to hear.